we need ingenuity right now to unlock this equation, right? And that from my perspective, we've been partnering with Microsoft, with Amazon, with Accenture, with Schneider, and really our 20,000 customers around the world. They have a ton of intellectual knowledge that's available that they want to partner within their ecosystems, whether it's in the power industry, whether it's in the oil and gas industry. Just as Mark said, they've done a great job of partnering. But what's unlocked that partnering is the ability to share information. Right now, the information is on the cloud. We really need to harness the ability to actually look at the same data, not each other's different data, right? Right now, today, whether we're executing capital projects or operating environment, we have a tendency to hoard that data. We still do. It's my private cloud or your private cloud. It's my on-prem system. We've seen examples of collaboration between EPCs and owners where, just putting the project information or the entire capital project in a centralized location could actually reduce or improve capital efficiency by 30%, or reduce costs of a capital project by over 15%, just by sharing the same data on a capital project. In a capital project, there's 5,000 stakeholders, whether EPCs, suppliers, vendors, you name it, or even licensor technologies, they all don't share the same common information, and they need to partner. And I think, the cloud has really unlocked the ability for us to partner. Now, once we have that data, leveraging other technology like digital twin or AI is huge. I know a lot of folks on the phone here are AI experts. There is an opportunity once you have that data to provide initial decision support to that ecosystem of people and partners working together. The other thing I wanted to kind of mention is that there's no doubt we, even Wood and us together, we're working together on a program called Connected Build. And we openly partnered together to try to solve how we can, use technology and digitalization to improve capital efficiency in the field. That's a huge opportunity that we're another example of us partnering together to try to help the world, help the ecosystem of partners around us deliver better capital projects. So just a couple examples, Mario, from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thanks very much, Amish. And you just nailed it in some of the aspects that we all agree upon in terms of building that, fostering new partnerships, enhancing the ecosystem. That brings a lot of benefits. Paige, you also came from the industry. You have a bird's eye view now in this role. Tell us a bit about your own experience and how you think the challenges could be overcome.
Yeah, I mean, I fully support that data is critical, right? In the process industries, there's so much data we collect, and the sharing of that's quite important. But I want to add to it the importance of visibility on the value chain. That's really critical. These are long chains. And we've got a great example that AspenTech does. We're participating in a group called the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. And it starts with feedstock producers and goes all the way down to, plastic waste managers, every step in between, the refiners, the polymer producers, the people who make the packaging. And to find solutions to these significant problems, you need to talk to everyone along that chain. And so the value chain idea is really critical, and partners along the way. I mean, as you say, the frenemies, I think was the term people used. It's the idea that we really need to share ideas because we have critical global challenges right now with sustainability. And one thing I like to go back to as well, if you think about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 17 is about partnership. The idea that you need to collaborate to find solutions for these big problems. And so I think we all need to be looking for those opportunities as to how we can accelerate the progress that's really all necessary.
Indeed, indeed. And Rob, you've just mentioned that a while ago, was the, even this major effort to bring more partner discussions to the business and making sure that the industry understands that. What's your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, it's understandably, I think it's a big challenge for many organizations, particularly in the energy industry as well, which I suppose has been particularly solid, perhaps. And I think we've got a little bit of that history, which we're trying to sort of overcome. I spent a lot of my early career working on JVs and how do you get most effective joint venturing arrangements and working practices, et cetera. And the industry now is quite comfortable and familiar with JVs. But there was a journey to go through to get there. And that, in many ways, the JVs is also doing something which the industry is very comfortable with. It's typically large-scale construction or engineering programs. And I think when we talk about 4.0 and on the digital side, it's different. And we know it's a challenge because we did some research start of last year, and I think we found skepticism at executives around the value of partnerships and the value of ecosystems. And we had 42% of executives nervous. 54% of executives were skeptical about the benefits of partnerships, and over 40% worried that it was going to impact their culture. So it was almost that question of how much do I open up? And I think when we talk about digital ecosystems, it is different and it is a bit confronting. I love Paige's point around almost the more people you bring in, sometimes it's easier if you tackle something at a value chain level. And I think there are some interesting learnings around how do you do this? Because when you talk about things like IP and things like, I'm going into what's the value exchange here? I'm going into something, I'm innovating. So therefore, almost by definition, I don't quite know what the end journey will be. I don't quite know where we'll end up. So there's a huge amount of trust and leadership that needs to go into setting up these ecosystems. So I don't think we should be surprised that they're hard and surprised that we're perhaps not making as much progress as we'd like. And work needs to be done. But I think when we're all here from all panelists now, I think I'm one of the last panelists talking, we're all in agreement that we're going to have to do more of this. We have to collaborate. We have to join these ecosystems, and we have to partner more effectively to tackle some of these big challenges we have across the energy and across the decarbonisation of energy value chain. Yeah, indeed. Thanks, Rob. And that's goes to the point of building trust between companies and all of you touch at very interesting aspects of how to leverage this ecosystem. But Kent, from a Microsoft perspective, everybody partners with Microsoft. What do you think that has been your experience as well? And how is Microsoft also, and from your personal thoughts, how do you think that this could be something to be addressed by Microsoft and by the industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for bringing me in. As you guys were talking about partnership, and Microsoft is also obviously very, focused on partnerships, as a platform company, which is really about technology that empowers people. But I think when it comes to this specific topic, was actually on a panel for the United States National Science Foundation, and they were talking about using AI in manufacturing, and it was a similar conversation to this. There's the work group that I was on was trying to answer the question, well, why hasn't software AI in particular, helped manufacturing more? And there was a lot of conversation about, well, what do you share? Data's very proprietary, plans and parts are very proprietary, but recipes are very proprietary as far as how products are made. But what the thing we came to is that the thing that can actually be shared very effectively is skills. And perhaps if you operate on the level of the skills that are required to increase efficiency, reduce emissions, and things like that, then you can open the ecosystem a bit more, because there's more things to share. And I think that's what I'm really excited about as far as what autonomous AI can do, because a lot of people think about autonomous AI, and I don't like the word autonomous as much because it suggests that this AI kind of off on its own, doing something. But really, autonomous AI is AI that can perform a skill. It can actually do something. It can operate, a manufacturing line or a polymer plant or an HVAC system. And when you think about it that way, and collaborating, as Amish said, in a decision support capacity with humans, then you can actually build high value skills for reducing emissions increasing efficiency, increasing yield into autonomous AI, and have it be something that can be transported, even across companies.
Absolutely, Ken. So you just nail it in some of these aspects, and what sort of data and roles and responsibilities within the different players should be taken. And this is a very good segue for us to hear from Prabhu, being potentially one, from a specific business unit that touches everything that we're doing from a business standpoint. Prabhu, can you share with all of us exactly what were your thoughts as well, and how do you see this going? Where is it going from a Wood perspective?
So from a technical perspective, what I see is digital transformation essentially is about putting data that have been living in silos for a long time together, right? And the reason the data lived in silos is because they were domain specialists, understood that data really well, and used it to make the right decisions. Now, when you're talking about Industry 4.0, digital transformation plays a key role. This data is brought together. You also have to understand that no one person understands the data completely. So from an operations perspective, you need to bring in multiple domain specialists to work together in this data. So there is partnership required from that front. When I look at technology space, there have been, some companies do, let's say, real-time systems really well. Some companies do integrity management systems really well. But no one company does all of these systems really well. So again, from an integrator perspective, I need to select the best-in-class solutions for my client to put them together. So partnering as an integrator is essential, because I've got to work with the best of technologies for the betterment of my client. If I look at Industry 4.0, the various elements, cybersecurity, simulation, Internet of Things, robots, again, there's a multitude of technology vendors with best-in-class solutions. You need to partner to deliver value for our clients. And I'm excited as an integrator because it's really complex ecosystem out there. If it's hard for me, it's hard for my clients. So I can play the role of somebody who can come in, advise them on the best-in-class solutions, put them together, and find value from it, right? So I'm super excited that partnering is key, and you got to be humble. You got to know that you don't know everything. Neither does some of your partners in certain areas, and you got to bring it all together.
Yeah, that's indeed. And we all need to foster this culture of open innovation with everybody. The world goes towards that. But in taking that aspect that you mentioned, Prabhu, thanks for that, for sharing that. In order to keep up with the pace of the tech change, some of the business leaders are also beginning to appreciate the need to nurture a culture of lifelong learning, and also creating an enablement and an environment for their workforce, maximizing innovation and also investment. So the question for the panel will be, what are some of the challenges that companies are facing in attracting talents, and how do you think that innovation can help us on this in this aspect? Paige, can I start with you now, please? Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry. Yes, I'm just having trouble with getting mute. So yeah, attracting talent, certainly a challenge in this area. Energy business, chemicals business doesn't always have such a positive reputation. I know one huge aspect, though, when you talk about digitalization and you talk about sustainability, it's about being part of the solution. How can we help resolve these really big challenges? And that has been an encouraging lure to people to think that it's going to take challenging technology to figure this out, and to be part of how to resolve that is of great interest, I'll say. One of the things I'll comment, though, too, and the challenge we've already been dealing with in this industry is, as we've had a generational turnover, as older people retire, we've been bringing in younger people. So of course, attracting them, but also preparing them for that job. We no longer have the operator who's been there for 30 years. So now we have new challenges at the unit. One of the things we've done a lot of is integrate AI to do what we call a cognitive guidance. It gives feedback to the operators based on, I've seen these conditions before. Use that AI to give guidance to the operator, who may be only there a few years. This is new to them, they haven't seen it. but it gives them guidance so they make the right decisions at the unit. And of course, it's about operational excellence, but it could also be about safety. So that feedback loop is really important as we bring in younger people, and we want to be sure that we have a safe environment. And I know, Kent, you brought up earlier about automation. I know that word scares people a little bit in this industry. Automate where you can, of course, because that gives an opportunity to not have the operator deep into it, but they can still participate. You're sure you have good operations, but you're not exposing people. And that's also important, that we think about where's the best places that we can use automation for safety reasons, and then of course operational excellence as well.
That's exactly what
saying
Kent,
is super important. When I first got into this, designing autonomous AI for enterprises, I thought, autonomous AI, it's very scary. People are going to think it's taking their jobs. And it's really interesting. 65%, and I've designed over 150 of these autonomous AI for companies like Pepsi and Shell and others. And 65% of them are actually there to help humans do better. It's exactly what you're saying. So the folks see this as an opportunity, one, to codify the expertise of those experts that are about to leave. I actually was helping a colleague design an AI just last week, where they're designing the AI because they can't retire the expert. The expert's been wanting to retire for 2 years, and they can't retire him yet because they haven't transferred the skills, and they're using this AI in the exact way that you're talking about, Paige, to capture, codify, and then transfer the skills to other people. And I was at a major chemical plant for a major chemical manufacturer, and I asked, one of the supervisors, and this is a process where it takes 7 years to train before you can be allowed to make decisions in the control room. And there was a operator who had been promoted to a supervisor and now oversaw multiple operations. And I said, aren't you people afraid? Aren't your people afraid of, having this AI here that we were designing? And he said, no way. And then he showed me this sheet where everyone was held accountable for the changeover and the waste. And he said, this operator doesn't want to be the one with, a huge changeover and a huge waste on their shift. They would much rather have an AI sitting next to them giving guidance.
Yeah, there's a lot of domain expertise that needs to be, flown from one person to another. It takes a lot of time. Mark, you've been quite active on this subject as well. What's your thoughts?
I mean, the big thing is, because of COVID, flexible, hybrid, working from home are here to stay. There's no going back. I think that brings some positives and a few challenges. On one hand, we have access now to a wider pool of people that may never have considered our industry before. But is that wider pool of talent going to fix the talent problems within engineering? That is the question. I mean, as an industry, we're all constantly evolving, refining, redefining, predicting, analyzing, and adapting. But the big thing we have, that line is, we're seen by the next generation as a bit of a dirty industry. And that's a brand that the industry has to come over. And now the digital boom is there. We need to be able to show this next generation that it's not as it was. It's not the best example I can give you with the advancements in technology. Would we have ever considered a meeting like this 5 years ago? I mean, that, it just shows you how short a period of time, how we've moved from being, together in one room to now expanding that pool of people who can watch this sort of meeting. And that is now there and available. And that needs to come down into the mindset as well. And that means down to looking not only at traditional apprenticeships, but new apprenticeships. Let's get the young excited, let's get them in the industry. And those apprenticeships can be on system integration, digitization, communication. And the one thing people have always said to me is, there's no point having all the data. I mean, the figures are out there on how much data we've collected, but there's no point having that data there if we can't communicate it or report it in a way that people understand it. So going back to the earlier comment of that integrator, one of the key skills now that we need to teach this generation is communication, and being able to communicate that in a way. And that leads onto the innovation. It's not so paper driven, it's not so Excel driven. We've moved along with all these advances, and now some of the systems that Bentley provide, like the Synchro, the Open Utilities and Open Cities Planner, they're very graphical, and that's the hook. That's the hook that can get the next generation, get them excited. And personal aspect is, I know so many people who have done the school day out and visited sites, let's just call it sites, and they've obviously been taken to the nearest site to it, which usually is a residential site. They've seen it. Usually they've done it in November, December, or January, your end of year activity. It's cold, it's wet, and it's miserable, and everybody's walking around in hard jackets. When we do anything, then we start taking in the goggles and showing the 3D visualization, which very much part of that integrator role. You can just see the next generation's eyes light up. And I think that is where we need to grab them to get that recruitment and to fill that skills gap that's throughout the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely well spotted. Amish, you bring a lot of experience as well in this industry, and you've been seeing a lot of things in the field as well. What do you think?
Well, yeah, attracting the right talent is key. And I have a couple of stories. So, I was playing hockey last night, and there was a young engineer. He was actually an IT manager of one of our large pipeline operator in North America, and fairly young guy. And he was talking about this work at home, and he's like embracing it. He's a manager of, let's say, 10 people of IT professionals underneath him. But he's like, he was saying that he's basically working anywhere. Right? He's working at the gym. He's working at the yoga studio. He's working anywhere. And he's like telling his people, if you don't, I don't care, turn your cameras on wherever you are, and let's start working and collaborating, right? That's the generation that we're talking about here. They can work anywhere. This is, COVID's given us this, as Mark said, this opportunity, right? It's not going away. So we're going to work everywhere. And the beauty of it working anywhere is you can actually be more efficient and get more work done versus waiting to get to the office. So that's one comment. The other comment, I was just a couple of stats, right? The Institute of Future is saying 85% of the jobs in 2030 have not been invented yet, right? 64% of millennials in Generation X will not work for a company that does not have a clear sustainability goal, right? Or principle. The money, the capital that's coming into our industry, Science-Based Targets Institute, are 37 trillion in assets are committed to sustainable ESG goals, right? And that's 70% of the total assets under management potentially are around sustainability. So if we don't have this focus for this younger generation, and we will lose them. The other thing is technology. Being a technology company, if we don't have technology imperatives like IoT, cloud, Mark said 3D, visualization, right? They are not going to be interested, right? My younger kids, we, back in the day, we're all around, what was that game called? A mine builder, where you go in and build, buildings in 3D, and our kids are using Snapchat to communicate. I really think that the future of cleaning up our operations in the energy sector or the processing industry is to latch onto this concept of, even, the meta guys talking about, but this metaverse, right? This build an industrial metaverse where we're bringing engineering, operations, and maintenance together in a 3D environment to actually look at the data from multiple different angles, apply AI, like Ken had said, to provide better decision support systems. If we don't do this, we don't build an industrial metaverse for us to help the processing industries not only build better facilities, but also operate them more efficiently, we're not going to attract this younger generation, right? They're done. They're not coming, right? It's got to be cool, right? And and cool is not P&IDs that are stuck in a filing cabinet in an operating facility. That's not cool, right? So, that's just my thoughts, Mario, right? In this industrial metaverse, right?
Absolutely.
I want to add one comment. One plus we have, though, is that the new generation is, like you say, Amish, they're digital natives. They're very comfortable with the digital interface. So that helps us in terms of penetration in the industry, because that's been one of our challenges. The guy who's been there 30 years does not want to stop turning the knobs. He's not comfortable with the interface. So
Exactly.
now we have operators who are very comfortable and often get computational chemistry, and that even in college years. So they're very prepared for this. That helps us, but we need to be able to best leverage that, right? And provide the kind of training they need in their environment. But I do think I'm optimistic, I guess, that we can work with them in this new group. I think they're much better prepared in the sense of digital.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Minecraft is the game I was thinking of. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Kent did us a favor. Rob, what from a higher perspective, bringing your expertise on the consulting as well, what do you see?
But I love this question, Mario, and I can't help hark back to, I heard a Professor Andrew Scott, who gave a lecture on the 100-Year Life. It's actually a book as well, really recommend it. And turned me into a real bore, basically, because any dinner party I went to for the next 3 months, I used to bang on about this 100-year life, which basically says, you're going to have to plan for multiple careers. Yeah. And, in these conversations, interesting, we do always tend to talk about the next generation, the younger generation, but we've got another generation as we all work longer, we live longer, so we work longer. You got a 20 to 45. What about the 45 to 70 year span as well? We have to attract people to our industry across all facets of life and of all parts of the working population. And I think the collaboration, it's so critical. And I think can't remember who said it, I think Mark might have said it. It's like if you're not doing this, then I can't imagine how you're going to attract any talent. If you try and operate in a silo and bring people into industry, and I think someone else said it, that industry, which is not sitting at the moment with the greatest reputation, let's be honest. But if you can say, actually, when you come and join this operation, with this business, we collaborate with all these different parties. We're part of this ecosystem. Our breadth and reach is so broad, and we're bringing all that learning from lots of different places to try and solve this problem and try and solve this sort of humanitarian crisis. That's really engaging. And actually, it's really attracting for talent, perhaps, who say, well, I'm not an engineer, so why would you want me? And particularly around that next generation or the middle generation of workers that I think we're increasingly going to have to attract. We can't just attract young people coming out of the first university course, because we might be doing multiple courses. How do we also attract people who've maybe had their first career in a completely different industry, but actually we want some of that diversity of thought, diversity of thinking. So I think it's so critical that we as an industry, and talk about energy industry, keep that open mindset, keep that open source mindset, learn from many people on this call from a technology perspective who just do this second nature, are used to operating in an environment where you do collaborate. We've got to get that culture and that way of working in our industry to not just attract, but also keep and retain the people we've got. And I also think, I don't know what to phrase it, but that sort of the middle generation as well, which I don't think we can lose as we all live longer and work longer.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's a massive challenge that we all need. We're all facing today. It's not a problem of the future. It's the problem that we're facing today. Prabhu, your thoughts?
Yeah. So just I don't think the technology companies are really struggling to attract talent, right? It's really the manufacturing companies, the production companies that are, in this industry were struggling to some extent. And so there's multiple threads to it. One is if I'm somebody that can make money making YouTube videos every day, why would I work in an office setting, right? So as a leader, you got to get your mindset that this is a new generation, and there's so many different ways for them to have a career that you really need to make it attractive for them to come and join you. But at the same time, the advantages we do have is the fact that the challenge is massive. What we're trying to do in terms of reduce the carbon footprint in the industry is a massive challenge. And there's no point for people to sit at the sidelines and fight about what we're doing. Actually, come and join us to solve the challenge. That's got to be one of the messages. And And the technology space, again, this is brilliant because the technology has come into this industry at the right time. And as a problem solver, anybody out there's got to be excited by the fact that there's all of these great tools. You can put them together to solve some really challenging problems. And so when is a better time to be in the industry than now? So we need to change how we attract talent, but actually it's a really exciting time to be able to send the right message to bring talent in. I was presenting to a space school about a few months back, and I watched some of the young kids. These are kids in high school presenting some of the summer work they had done with NASA and other space schools, basically. And I was blown away because I can tell you, I could not have done that at that age. I probably didn't have the knowledge base to achieve some of the things these guys did. I would say even until my PhD. It was just, I was astounded by how these kids are motivated to find really complex challenges like, how do I make it easy for people to go into space, and what are the innovations I can do? So, you've got the people with the right skill set. The other thing is, as a leader, you've got to be open to the fact that it's not traditional engineers anymore. You've got to look for problem solvers. My prediction is 10 years from now, universities are going to be less important. Skills are going to be more important. So you got to look for people with the right skills and the problem solving skills. Don't look for traditional just engineers, but go, cast a wider net to attract the right talent. That could be a bit divisive a statement as an engineer myself, but I do see that's what's going to happen 10 years from now. And so we got to be ready for it. And the last thing is, this is the 20th year of Harry Potter. I've been here 20 years at Wood as well. And, neither are we in Hogwarts, nor do we have a Pensy to transfer knowledge from a really smart engineer who's been there doing this for 30 years into a technology. So there's massive amount of work that needs to be done to transform that knowledge base that's been created into AI, into new people, create technology solutions. So again, really exciting space. You got to be excited about the work you do to attract talent. So to me, as a leader, you got to be, really excited about the work you do, about the learning that's required to keep up with the pace of technology change, and then you will naturally attract talent. So there's my 2 cents.
No, absolutely, that was great, Prabhu. So what we are saying is that this industry in specific, the energy sector, is really impacted. We are feeling that in our daily work. But what does it mean for tech companies, and which roles do you see as playing a key role? What do you think about this? Amish, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I think, obviously we're on another roller coaster, right? We're at $85 barrel of oil, trending to possibly 100, 150. There's a renaissance happening again. Maybe the last wave that we may foresee, but this is the wave if we don't learn from this one, right? In terms of taking the potential windfall of cash or profits that may come from this wave and reinvesting it right into the energy transition, we're missing something. And I think, if we look at the big players, the energy companies in their industry, they are the ones with tremendous cash flow right now. I don't know, in Canada, oil and gas companies are trading 4 times their cash flow, or 4 times their net cash earnings. Yeah, they have the cash to potentially inject to this 37 trillion that needs to be invested to make this change happen. No doubt the big New York and London and Singapore, and the money coming from Wealth Simple on our phones from the younger kids that are popping in $20 from their lunch money. That capital is coming, but the real capital is going to come from the energy companies that have to make this transition. Yesterday, Reliance Industry announced $60 billion investment in renewable and green energy, right? BP, Shell, the European dominated energy companies are absolutely thinking about the future, and that's where it will come, right? And as a technology company that's 50 years, as Aviva, that's been in the business of really, these are our customers, our 20,000 customers. We feel that we're in the opportunity to help them, to lend them a hand, right? Lend them a hand in terms of our technology that we have, instead of using our technology to potentially solve the objective function of building it cheaper and building it faster, or operating it to improve cash flow and profits. The objective function just simply changes to like, hey, how do I reduce carbon emissions? How do I reduce the amount of material that I'm using in capital to build this facility? That's it. That's the opportunity that we can provide as a technology company. And that's what we're looking at. So we're infusing our technology to be able to just change the objective function to help our customers in the energy landscape build the sustainable plants, or operate them more efficiently in the future.
Right. And Ken, from a Microsoft perspective as well, what, being also a tech company, what do you think the role that needs to be played?
I love the last couple of comments, Prabhu's and Amisha's. I think that in Industry 4.0 for good lies in democratization. The impact that we can have as tech companies is allowing democratization and orders of magnitude more people participating in solving the problems. So, you know, autonomous AI can already do some of the things we've been talking about. You know, I designed an AI, and we built an AI that's operating on the Microsoft campus right now that's reducing energy consumption in the Redmond West campus by 15%. 50% of all energy that's used in buildings is used by the HVAC system, 50%. And so, you know, I taught, to Prabhu's point, I teach a class on designing autonomous AI, and I taught it through a nonprofit to some high school and college kids. And the AI that they designed was out of this world. They designed AI for sustainable fishing. They designed AI for, you know, all sorts of, you know, amazing things, the exact kinds of problems we're talking about here, including climate change. But in order to do that, technology has to enable democratization. There's only 10,000 people in the whole world, according to Gartner, 2018, that can build autonomous AI from scratch. But there's 100 million subject matter experts, like chemical engineers and mechanical engineers. And so you need low code platforms. You need things like Amisha's talking about, the industrial metaverse, and industrial part of the industrial metaverse makes it non-trivial technology in order to enable the 100 million to solve problems instead of the 10,000 to solve problems, for example, in the autonomous AI case. That's
great. Absolutely. Mark?
Just following on from my colleagues, I mean, I suppose going back to Rob's comment earlier, I mean, I started off life as a quantity surveyor. I mean, not the most popular person in the room ever in a site meeting. I moved over to technology, and every time I sit with one of our developers now, I still get that tingly wow feeling, because I still remember those days of being on site and spelling ammonia off the drawings. I am that old. It is, you know, a vast change, but it's already here. Let's be really honest, and both gentlemen have hit the nail on the head. It's a collaboration by the many. I mean, the world's energy system is already going under a rapid transition. I mean, they've been triggered simultaneously by what shifts in technology development, regulation, customer preferences, investor sentiment as well. I mean, that mindset is really kicked, and that's likely to see these accelerate, these sort of exponentially, this change, this transition period, and that's really now been underpinned by the recent wave of stuff coming out of COP26, which is great. I mean, that's the momentum. That's what we're all. It's given a voice in an area. If you take the energy sector specifically, I mean, with projected peaks in demand of hydrocarbons coming forward, I think oil's 2029, gas 2037, coal's already in steady decline already. So the focus is going to be on renewable energy, and especially with the transition to electric vehicles, away from vehicles that burn fossil fuels. It really now is this next step of transition, technology, advancement. We've got the desire, we've got the appetite. What we need to really focus on now and hone is the capability. So this means is there's more likely a dependent wave on nuclear, wave power, wind power, short-term natural gas, maybe. I mean, as I said earlier, Europe is quite interesting at the moment. And, you know, will it drive? And technology will play a pivotal role with design, delivery, management of the asset, and a range of checking off and checking boxes. And that goes back to Ken's comment earlier, these different roles coming in. Not one company can do everything. I mean, I wrote a paper back in February for major projects last year, and one graphic seemed to have got the spot. I actually said that 2020, when I started the paper, it was insight, complex project delivery, and consultancy. Those are three things. And that made industry about a 3 to 5% margin. Take those three things and then bolt on the management of asset data, not the management of asset, but the management of asset data. That will actually return most companies between 8 and 10%. And that you've just seen what's been enforced by COVID is that long change made short, because people have jumped on and seen it and seeing the advantages it can give you. Because not only now, if you deliver a project, you're managing that asset information for X plus 10X is the project period, but 10 or 20 years, going to your client and being able to see, I know how the asset was delivered, I know how the asset was performing, and I know how to reduce cost, carbon, environmental aspects, deliver better performance to the community, not about the asset. And that was said earlier by one of the other people on the call. It's not about cost reduction, it's about performing better in the environment for it. And I think a lot of data, as I said, is going to be available. It's how we actually report this data to all communities, and that goes from financial down and to those users. And that's why I believe Bentley and technology can help the industry bring innovation to the table. And that's the thing. I think Paige said earlier, we've got a skill shift that's moving out, and we need to educate them because we need their knowledge. But with the enthusiasm of the next sort of leaders coming into the marketplace, we can do it as an industry, definitely.
Yeah. Paige?
Yeah, something I wanted to add too that we're doing is this idea that we do need to work with the existing companies and all the capital in the energy business, completely understand. But one thing we've been doing as well is adding sample models to a lot of our existing processes. The idea that that process engineer that's maybe worked at the refinery or the petrochemical unit may now be asked to look into hydrogen projects or think about renewable energy. And so we're giving them tools to quickly look into how to do engineering of those processes, so they can begin to think about, oh, if I bring in renewable energy to run my unit, how will it impact? Or if now I've been asked to work on a hydrogen project, how do I jumpstart that activity? So we give them sample models just as a first step to help them get moving. Because as I say, I think our big opportunity here is how can we accelerate the innovation that's really necessary. I think the other critical aspect of digital as well is as they then begin to look at significant capital projects that they'll need to do, and this is across the entire value chain, we can help them make better decisions because you can do economic analysis of the new units. We can help with the scale up that's necessary for all of these cool new technologies, but they've got to get to scale. Digital is fundamental there to make all of that happen. So I think we're well positioned in terms of digital capability to really accelerate this process that so many companies need to do for sustainability.
Indeed. And what about you, Rob?
Well, maybe just building on Paige's comments there, you know, I think that startup to scale up challenge is going to be critical for so many companies in our supply chain. So we're doing lots of innovation around new technologies. There's lots of pilots. There's lots of trials. You know, if you look at how many new hydrogen projects have been commissioned in the last 12 months, we're in the middle of making the transition and the changes, but so many of them are the first. And it's we're going to trial it, we're testing it, we're going to test technology, we're going to test the economic case, we're going to test the business case, the practicalities, etc. It's the speed of moving from the startup, if you like, to use that language, to the scale up language we all sort of understand. I think will be critical. We talk about capital flows, talk about the role of finance. There's more than enough capital out there to support this transition. Absolutely. I think from a technology perspective, everyone will say there's more than enough technology. We've got more than enough data. We've got all the ingredients. But one of the things we do have to unlock is the finance. And as I speak from a very wide perspective, we know our CFOs can be a little bit skeptical and are sometimes the hardest to get over the line from a business case perspective to get those programs away. So, I think therefore on all of us to ensure we communicate effectively, we tell stories effectively, we get engagement to actually be able to move at a pace that this industry hasn't typically had to move at, let's face it, for the last few generations. And that startup to scale up mentality, I like the language because everyone can resonate with it. They don't necessarily think about their own organization in that with that language, but they're going to have to. And how we communicate effectively across all those dimensions, our public, our customers, our employees, attract all the talent to attract the talent, but also tell a story on the financial case, so we can get access to the funds that allow us to accelerate is always important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Finalize, Prabhu.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take Rob's point about startup to scale up. A lot of these solutions get, people do POCs and they're struggling on how to scale it up. So I'm not necessarily, I would say, a tech company, but I'm a tech integrator. And so for me, our role here is really getting companies to move along that, hey, you've done the POC, what technologies do you bring in to scale this up across enterprises to achieve your goals? That's where I see opportunity, but that's the role that we want to play in this market is be that technology integrator that provides the right advice to our clients.
Yeah, and there's plenty of opportunities in terms of roles and responsibilities that we all play, and some of your thoughts seems to be basic, but it's hard to be implemented, and those are the challenges that we all face in the current era of the industry. I would love to carry on with this discussion, but unfortunately we're a bit tight on time. But I really want to appreciate everybody's comments, all for being here with us, and sharing your thought leadership, to the world and to whoever is gonna watch this recording as well. We want to thank you, all of you, for your contribution. We want also to thank very much for Anne for hosting this session for all of us. And with that, Anne, it's up to you.
Thank you so much. And I'm just going to share again a few slides here, and also provide a few comments. So first of all, as Mario mentioned, I want to big thanks to Mark and Paige and Amish and Kent and Rob and Prabhu. It's great to see you all again. Many of you, I met you or people from your company at COP26. And we are actually what you are now, the Woodhouse, whatever you are in person or virtually, we will keep doing that going forward. And it's only, as it was said many times, in partnership that we can really build the solutions that is needed to go forward. I just want to pinpoint on one thing when you all talked about skills. Later this week, we will have Duke University with us, and Wood is actually in the process of building education together with Duke University in the space of digital transformation in the energy sector. So more on that topic. Additionally, I want, if you haven't joined yet, people listening in here, come and join the Wood House, the Wood community. And as mentioned, the conversation today was really linked to the World Economic Forum, where the big session today was around renew the global, let me just go back 2 seconds. It was around technology cooperation in the fourth industry revolution, which was very nicely covered with our great partners with a specific focus on renewable and the whole digitization of the digital sector. And as being a person many years in the technology industry, I couldn't imagine a better moment in time right now to be part of digitalizing the entire energy sector. So with that, I just want to give a couple of inputs to what is happening tomorrow. This today was the first day where World Economic Forum was kicked off. And tomorrow there is a great session around renewing the global social contracts. And we are going to have a session following that speaking about mainstream resiliency for ESG performance ahead of COP27. As you know, we went from COP26 and are now leading towards COP27, which is going to happen in Africa later this year. And together with us tomorrow, we have Peter, who drives this from Woods. And then we are together with a number of the same partners that we work together with at COP26, from Resilience Shift, Resilient City Networks, International Coalition of Sustainable Infrastructure, the Private Infrastructure Development Group. Additionally, we have teamed up with Female Quotient, that we were also together with a COP26. So we have actually 3 sessions happening tomorrow, where the FQ Lounge at Davos is kicking off, where incredible speakers will be there, again from the Wood community. So many sessions are lined up for tomorrow and rest of the week. So with that, I just want to say thank you to all of you to be part of the first day at the Wood at Davos house. And with that, stay safe out there and join us tomorrow again at the Wood House. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anne.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.